Triple Triad is a card game in Final Fantasy XIV which originates from Final Fantasy VIII way back in 1999. It is unlocked via the quest Triple Triad Trial, accessed at level 15 after arriving in the Gold Saucer. Like in Final Fantasy VIII, Triple Triad involves both collecting and playing with cards acquired throughout the rest of the game. How to play. Each card has 4 values from 1 to 9, or A/Ace, one representing each side of the card. Games are played on a 1-on-1 with an NPC or another player on a 3x3 grid. In a standard game, high values beat lower ones, with A/Ace being the highest, with players taking turns to flip or capture their opponent's cards, by placing a card down with a higher value to an adjacent card on the board. At the end of the game, the player who's captured the most cards is the winner. To note, having a card captured does not mean you lose the cards after the game, you always get all your cards back. Decks are comprised of 5 cards. Each card has a 1 to 5 stars, roughly dictating its relative strength. A deck can have 1 5-star card, 2 4-star or greater cards, which means your 5-star will count as one of these, and 3 cards with 3 stars or more each. Generally, this means a deck will use 3 3-star cards, 1 4-star card, and 1 5-star card. Some cards have a type designated by a symbol in the top right, for example, Primals, Beastmen, or Guardians. These are only relevant if the Ascension or Descension advanced rules are in play. Advanced rules. Dependent on the match or NPC, none of these rules could apply, or up to 4 of them could be in use. Advanced rules are noted ahead of the match, allowing you to craft decks around them. All open means you can see your opponent's cards and they can see yours. 3 open, this means you see 3 of your opponent's cards and they can see 3 of yours. Same. If a card is played so that 2 or more of its numbers match those adjacent cards on the board, then all cards containing matches are flipped. Plus, if a card is played so that 2 or more of its numbers, when compared to the adjacent cards on the board, add up to the same total, all cards with matching sums are flipped. Combo. This is not a rule in itself, but is in play whenever same or pluses and can provide a radical swing in a match. If a card is captured under the plus or same mechanic, then the card will capture any adjacent cards as if that card had just been played on the board. Sudden death. If the match ends in a draw, then the match will restart, however the decks are determined by the cards which you finished the previous game with, whether they are your own or the captured ones. After 5 sudden deaths, the match is declared a draw. Random. Your deck is randomly drafted at the start of the match. Order. Cards are played in the order you place them into your deck. Think about your card order in advance. Chaos. You have to play your cards in a random order determined by the computer. Reverse. Lowest value wins on cards as opposed to the highest. Fallen ace. A 1 value can now flip an ace. Ascension. Each time a card of the same type is played, all cards of that type on the board and in both players' decks get a +1 to all numbers, which caps at A. Descension. Each time a card of the same type is played, all cards of that type on the board and in both players' decks get a -1 to all numbers, which caps at 1. Swap. One of your cards is swapped with one of your opponents at the start of the game. Roulette. One of the previously discussed rules is chosen at random. Where to play. There are 117 NPCs throughout Eorzea for you to find and play against, including all Gold Saucer NPCs. An NPC that you have not beaten yet will have a Triple Triad symbol above their head and on the minimap. Note the icon doesn't mean that they have cards you need to win, as I thought for the longest time. You can also challenge other players if they are in the Gold Saucer by right-clicking on them and selecting Challenge to a normal match. Bi-weekly Triple Triad tournaments. There are 4 different tournaments, each with different rules which cycle every 2 weeks and last for 1 week each. You can sign up via the tournament record keeper in Card Square at any point in the week. It is active and the tournament ranking board is next to the NPC, which displays the top 20 ranked players in the current tournament based on their point score. The bi-weekly rules for each tournament are advised ahead of time by the tournament record keeper, so put some time into prepping. If you're using the exact same deck for each time, then you're likely not going to get very far. Tournament matches have to be played in Battle Hall, which is under the Gold Saucer tab in the Duty Finder. Tournament matches play out the same as any other, however when tackling an NPC in Battle Hall, such as Philoclerin, the Lordling, you get 89 points for a win, 49 for a draw and 9 for a loss. The other NPCs offer less points based on their supposed lower difficulties. Note you get more than stated in their UI. When you play against another player, you get approximately 120 for a win, 80 for a draw, and 40 for a loss. Note you can get up to 5 bonus points, depending on that other player's current positioning on the rankings board. The NPCs can be challenged in Battle Hall simply by clicking on the NPCs themselves. To play other players, you need to go to the hall assistants in the corners and sign up to tournament matchmaking, which will then try to match you with another player in the hall. Note, in terms of PvP, you can only play against the same player once per tournament, preventing trying to cheese the system against a single opponent. There are various cards and MGP rewards on offer, with the main draw being 4 of the Legendary X cards, which can only be attained via these tournaments. Reward structure on screen now. Open tournaments. These involve 8 players made up of NPCs or players and consist of you playing 3 rounds of Triple Triad. 3 points are awarded for a win and 1 point for a draw. Where more than one player finishes on the same points, the amount of cards captured at the end of each round is factored in to decide the overall winner. The big difference in open tournaments is that you do not use your own cards. You select from a draft presented to you at the start of the tournament. This can be great fun and a great into the game if you have a very small Triple Triad card collection. Tournaments open every 2 hours via the Open Tournament official in Card Square in the Gold Saucer. This will match you with other players while filling any remaining slots with NPCs. Additionally, you can create an open tournament via the Duty Finder in the Gold Saucer tab under Invitational Parlor, either queuing with a party of players or solo to face off against 7 NPCs. You as the party leader get to set the advanced rules upon entering. Tips for victory. Generally speaking, most people go down the route of what is known as the corner strategy. This involves using cards which have 2 strong adjacent sides, placing them in corners of the board to protect their weaker sides. This, in theory, makes these cards very hard to lose, and there are multiple 3-star cards which have 8s on the 2 adjacent sides, with 4-star and 5-star picks often being chosen in the same fashion, but with adjacent 9s or aces instead of 8s. Ardbert and Theron have become extremely popular 5-star cards, as while not having any aces, they have an unprecedented 3 9s which are extremely useful in counteracting the previously mentioned 8 corner cards. Keep in mind, the player going second will only ever play 4 cards. This is really important when playing the order rule, as you should never put your 4 or 5-star cards in the 5th slot, as you're not going to use them if you have to go second. There's also a limited point playing a 5-star card first when there's nothing on the board to flip. Plus and same rule strategies. With the majority of players playing standard corner strat decks, it's important to think about how you can leverage rules like plus and same to your advantage. For example, a 5-star card like the Onion Knight can swing a same rule game with its north and south 8s. Or under plus rule, replacing a 3-star corner 8 with a card like Alpha with its full set of 6s can clinch victory. Additionally, there's mastery to obtain in thinking ahead with the ways you can position your cards to influence where your opponent will play theirs to set up a game swinging trigger of plus or same later in the game. There are a lot of people out there using very similar decks, so the element of surprise of a less used card can also provide you an edge. Just have some rationale for its inclusion. Ultimately, one of the best ways to learn is to join tournaments and lose. Pay attention to the cards being used and how the cards were placed. This is the #1 way which I've learned strats and improved my own game. Collecting cards. Some cards only have one source and others have multiple. The card menu in game will show you one avenue for getting each card. If it shows question marks, then this will indicate that you haven't unlocked the content from which the card drops, or the NPC is currently not playable due to a quest needing to be completed first. An external source, like the link to in the description, will show all the ways to obtain and offers a great way to track your progress. Where relevant, it can also help solve which quests needs to be done to unlock the NPC for those question marks. Sources include NPCs throughout the world having cards that have an RNG chance of dropping after you defeat them. Note that 4 NPCs are locked behind having to get the Moogle, Vanu Vanu, Vath, and Dwarven Beast tribes to rank 8 Bloodsworn. Many dungeons, trials and raids drop cards after the last boss. These are usually personal drops, not in chests, which can also be obtained during solo unsynced runs. The exception are a few cards from Alliance Rage, which are in chests which must be rolled on just like gear. Achievements. A number of achievements grant cards, like various points on your way up to defeating 107 NPCs, collecting 344 cards, winning an open tournament, or winning 300 matches with the roulette rule.
As mentioned, the bi-weekly tournaments offer 4 cards only available via them, either won directly through coming first to third, or RNG drops from card packs only obtainable via the tournaments. The Gold Source also has a vendor which sells lots of cards for MGP. A handful of gemstone traders out in the world also have cards, noting Shared Fate rank 3 is required in Calusa, Elpis and Ultimate Thrall to get them all. A few other NPC matches and subsequently cards that they unlock are gated behind substantial pieces of content like Eureka, Blue Mage and Hildebrand. For me, my quest to get all Triple Triad cards meant going through a lot of missed content, which in the outset seemed like a chore, but in the end provided a ton of fun experiences which I otherwise would not have motivated myself to do. If you're just starting out, see it as a long-term goal and enjoy all the old content along the way. As of patch 6.08, there are 346 cards in the game. Collecting numbers 1 through 312 will grant you the fantastic Triple Triad card mount. All done. Like and subscribe to complete the duty.